Hello YouTubers and Amazing Spider-Man fans, and welcome to a very special Amazing Spider-Man movie action figure review by me, MegaShots. Now today I'm going to be bringing you a review of one of the 6-inch figures from the Amazing Spider-Man, and as you can see this figure is the movie series Lizard figure, which comes with 3 reptile sidekicks and a display stand. Now I got this figure with its accessories from Amazon.co.uk recently for £17.49. This figure, to me, is just absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to be reviewing it. Okay, so if we take a look at the front, we can see Spider-Man hanging about in the top left corner along with the Amazing Spider-Man logo. You've also got one of the reptile sidekicks hanging around in the top right corner. Below those, you've got Lizard and his accessories in a clear plastic bubble, and below them we can see the card showing the name of the figure, the Spider-Man symbol, and also a picture of the prototype figure. On the side you've got a picture of the Amazing Spider-Man. It's exactly the same as the one on the front of the packaging. And then if we take a look at the back, we can see a picture of Lizard and his accessories and some information surrounding them. You've also got pictures of the 2 other Amazing Spider-Man 6-inch figures, which include Spider-Man from the movie and the Miles Morales Spider-Man figure from the comic series. Then at the bottom you've got the same usual product and company information that you can see on the packaging for all the other 6-inch Amazing Spider-Man figures. That's it for the packaging. Okay, so here we have the 6-inch scale Amazing Spider-Man Lizard figure. Now this particular Lizard figure stands roughly around 7.5 inches tall, meaning he is quite a bit bigger than the 2 Spider-Man figures in this wave. He is also made from a completely new sculpt, by the way. I'm really glad to have this figure in my collection now, and I hope to get the 2 Spider-Man figures from this wave sometime in the near future, so I can have him fighting those as well. Okay, that's just pretty much a basic overview of the figure, and now we're going to start taking a look at the detailed paintwork and sculpting. If we take a look at the head sculpt, we can see that this is a really highly detailed part of the figure. It's got a great likeness to the Lizard from the movie. The detail it has includes the small reptilian scales which go all over his head, the small reptilian ears we can see on each side, the menacing eyes which have been painted really nicely with white, blue and black. His mouth, which we can see down here, is also very nicely detailed. It's full of small white sharp teeth, and it also has a small red tongue inside as well. Also just above that you can see his small reptilian nose. I think the head sculpt for this Lizard figure is absolutely brilliant. As I said before, I think it's got a very good likeness to the Lizard from the Amazing Spider-Man movie. The detail on it is just absolutely incredible. Really does help to make it look very accurate as well as lifelike. But I do think it could have been a bit better if it was painted with more of a lighter green, like we can see on his torso here, as Lizard's head in the movie wasn't actually this much of a dark green. And I also think the eyes could have been a bit better if they were more like the eyes of a lizard, as to me on the figure they just look like the eyes of Dr. Curt Connors with the blue and black pupils. In the movie they were much more like lizard eyes with yellow pupils and black slits going down the middle. But even though I think it could have been better, I still really do love this head sculpt, and I think it's one of the best Amazing Spider-Man Lizard figure head sculpts we've seen so far. That's it for his head sculpt. The torso is another very highly detailed feature of this figure. If we take a look at it up close, we can see that it's been painted with many different shades of green and many different shades of brown. The front of his torso is very nice and accurate. It's mainly light brown like it was in the movie, but it does have some light green surrounding it like it did in the movie as well. It's got some absolutely fantastic detail as well, like some very small reptilian scales which go all over it. The muscles up here, the veins, the creases in the skin, and also the bone structure around here. You can also see quite a few more creases in the skin just by his waist as well, by the way. If we take a look at the back of his torso, we can see it is much more green than the front of his torso. Going from the neck down to his tail, we can see quite a lot of dark green, or perhaps even black. Seems to go right the way down from his head all the way down to where his tail is here, which is where it seems to turn to much more of a lighter green. Also on this part of the torso we can see plenty of those small reptilian scales, which are seen just about everywhere on this figure, along with quite a few more lines and creases in the skin. The arms are also very highly detailed. They also have plenty of those small reptilian scales, the veins, the muscles, and also the bone structure. Like the lizard in the movie, this particular lizard has 4 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other, so the hands are both very nice and accurate. I do think maybe they could have been a bit better though if the nails were painted with either white or light grey, as they were like that during the movie, but they still look very nice up close, and I think that they've been painted and sculpted really well. His legs are also covered with detail. We can see plenty more of those small reptilian scales, lots of creases in the skin, and plenty of veins as well. They've been painted with many different shades of brown and lots of different shades of green as well. They're quite dark around the top here near his waist, but they are much lighter down towards where his feet are. I really like his feet as well. They look really nice up close. They have several toes each, and they've got plenty of spikes on them as well. I think the feet look absolutely fantastic up close. I think maybe they just could have been a bit better if the toes were either light grey or white, as I don't think they look quite right being just green like the rest of the feet are, but that's only a small matter to me, and I still think the legs on this particular lizard figure look absolutely brilliant. If we take a look at his tail now, we can see that it has been painted just with one shade of green, and we can see that it is quite a light green. It's got some superb detail, like big and small scales around here, and some much smaller scales leading to the tip of his tail here. You can also make out some creases just underneath it as well. By the way, the tail of this lizard figure is a separate piece to the figure, and you do have to put it on once you've got it out of the packaging, but once you have it securely in the joint that it's meant to go in, it doesn't really fall off much. So from head to toe, this particular lizard figure is absolutely covered with detail, and it also has some absolutely superb paintwork and amazing sculpting as well. I think Hasbro have done a really good job with this figure. It's by far my favourite lizard figure from the movie so far. The detail just looks absolutely incredible, and I think Hasbro have done really well with the paintwork and sculpting for this figure as well. It's not quite as accurate as it should be in some places, but it still is a great figure. And now we are going to go into the articulation of this. Okay, articulation. His head can go from side to side. From this joint at the neck, his neck and head can go backwards and forwards. His arms are on ball joints, so they can move outwards as well as turn 360 degrees. They can swivel 360 degrees at the biceps as well, and they can move at 2 points in the elbow as well. Both his hands can turn 360 degrees. At this diaphragm joint, his upper torso can move backwards and forwards as well as turn from side to side. His tail can also move backwards and forwards from this joint as well, and it can also do a full 360 degree turn. His legs are on ball joints as well, so they can move outwards as well as backwards and forwards. They can also swivel just around the top here 360 degrees, and they can also bend at 2 places in each knee, and both his feet can turn 360 degrees and move from just at the bottom. That's all the articulation on this particular lizard figure. If I was to give some comments on articulation, I'd say I really like it just the way it is. I really like the fact that this figure has double jointed elbows and double jointed knees. I really like those kind of joints, and I don't usually see many figures nowadays that have those. I really like the fact that his tail can move up and down as well as turn 360 degrees as well, because the tail on the 4-inch lizard figure wasn't actually able to do that. All that tail did was turn 360 degrees. The only thing I'd say I don't like about that articulation is this neck joint, as I would have been a lot happier if this particular figure just had a ball joint for the head rather than this neck joint, because even when you move it backwards and forwards you can't really make him look up and down much. But I guess it's okay if you want to only make him look up and down a little bit when you're playing with him or just posing him for display purposes. Okay, that's all I had to say for the articulation, and now I am going to give a summary of my thoughts on this figure. So, overall, I think the Amazing Spider-Man 6" scale Lizard figure is an excellent addition to my Amazing Spider-Man figure collection. This is by far my favourite figure of the Lizard so far, and by far my favourite Amazing Spider-Man figure so far as well. It has some absolutely great paintwork, amazing detail and superb articulation, making it a figure I'd recommend to just about anyone that is a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or anyone that is interested in Spider-Man and the villain known as the Lizard. I just think it could have been a bit better if the head was more of a lighter green instead of a darker green, because then it would be a bit more accurate. Also think that eyes could have been a bit better if they were more like those of a lizard rather than those of a human. And I also would have liked the figure more if it was a bit easier to stand up, because even though it does have the holes in its feet for its display stand, I've had a lot of trouble just standing it up without and with the display stand. So if you are planning on getting this figure, then I'd say look forward to all the great detailed paintwork and articulation you're getting, but just bear in mind that the figure might be quite hard to stand up from time to time. So if I was to give this particular Lizard figure a rating out of 10, I'd say I'd quite happily give him a 9 out of 10. He is an absolutely brilliant figure in so many ways, but I just think maybe he could have been a bit better if he was more accurate in some places, and I would have liked him a bit more if he was a little easier to stand up, not only on his display stand but also without his display stand. Okay, that's it for the Lizard figure, and now we're going to start taking a look at his accessories. Okay, so here we have the display stand. Now this is exactly the same as the display stand that came with the 6" Walmart exclusive Avengers figures, however it does not have the Avengers symbol on it. It's quite a nice display stand. I'm not exactly sure what it's meant to represent, but I really do like it. I like the fact that you can connect it to the display stands of the Avengers figures, so if you want to put Lizard on his display stand with Loki or some of the other Avengers characters, you can do that by connecting the display bases. If I was to give this display stand a rating out of 5, I'd say give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's a cool looking display stand, but I haven't actually been able to put Lizard on it successfully because the parts that stick out of it that are meant to go into Lizard's feet aren't quite big enough. So he has wobbled on it and also fell off it quite a lot over the past few hours in which I've had the figure. But it's a nice display stand anyway. I quite like the way it looks, and by the way it is also being used for upcoming Marvel Legends waves as well. Okay, so here we have the reptile sidekicks. Now these consist of a possible bearded dragon, a gecko, and a giant green iguana. Now these figures are all made from soft plastic and do not have any articulation, but I still think they're absolutely fine the way they are. They're all very nicely detailed and they're all in very cool poses, especially the possible bearded dragon, which looks quite scary with that open mouth. I think the iguana's the best out of the lot because he's the biggest and by far the most detailed. They all have quite a lot of scales and some interesting patterns as well. They all look very lifelike as well. To be honest, I don't think they really needed to be included with this figure, but I still think they're really nice for scene recreations, and I'm sure lots of young fans of the movie will enjoy playing with them with their 6" Lizard figure as well. If I was to give them a rating out of 5 each, I'd say I'd give them all a 5 out of 5. They're all very cool little figures. And that is it for my review of the Amazing Spider-Man 6" scale Lizard figure. I've really enjoyed making this review, and buying this figure is definitely maybe consider getting some of the other Marvel movie 6" scale action figures. As I said before, I'd recommend this figure to just about anyone that likes the look of it, even those that aren't even Spider-Man fans. If you agree with me or disagree with me with some of the points I made in this review, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below, as I'd love to hear your opinions on this figure and its accessories as well. Thanks for watching this review, YouTubers. If I have any more comments about this figure, I shall put them in YouTube video annotations or in the comment section below. Also, if you'd like to post your comments about this figure, please feel free to do so in not only the comment section below, but also in maybe a video response you'd like to make. If you've reviewed this figure as well, then you can also send that to me as a video response. That will be absolutely fine by me. Thanks for watching, YouTubers, and I shall see you again soon. Time to put Lizard in hibernation.